Alright, so it's a little over a week now since D4 Season 4 has started. So far, my reception to it has been that it is much better than it used to be. The game still has a lot of problems, and I'm going to talk about them, but it has a lot more positives now, too. Now, this is coming from the perspective of an ARPG main gamer, perhaps an elitist, whatever you want to call me. What I'm looking for in an ARPG is really that the systems are all cohesive, it really makes sense, there's a good journey from starting the character to having a finished character. Not so much min-maxing a character, but just like having a well-rounded character that can do everything, basically. So I'll start with the positives. I'm going to list each one, and I'm going to start with the most important things, or the biggest positives, down to the more minor things. The end game loop is much better than it was before. Pits are fun. They're basically greater rifts. A lot of people say they're better than greater rifts. I don't really remember much of D3. I only played a handful of times, but to me it just seems like greater rifts, which is an entirely huge upgrade to what the end game was before. Just because Nightmare Dungeons are so incredibly bad. So now that the main loop is going to pits instead, you don't really have to do much Nightmare Dungeons. It is so much better. Helltide changes are fun. The density feels much better. There's some events in it which feel much better. There's a boss to kill. That doesn't feel too good, but it's definitely better. Uber boss difficulty feels pretty good if you're not playing one of the broken one-shot builds. So if you're playing like a build that's not just abusing a bug, the difficulty felt pretty good. Aspects are way better now. You don't have to like hoard a bunch of items to transfer the aspect or whatever it was before. Now you just salvage it and you can put it on all your items. It's a million times better. Getting builds going doesn't take that long. I mean, before it didn't really either, but now I feel like it's even faster. I feel like the game kind of got a little bit faster in general. I mean, XP definitely did. You definitely level faster. But getting builds to the point where generator isn't a big deal feels a lot easier now. Before, it kind of felt like a task to get to, and generator spender gameplay is kind of trash, so the sooner you can negate that, the better. And now it feels a lot faster to me. Crafting slash the loot you actually find is a bit better. A lot of people have given this really high praises. It's definitely a step in the right direction, but I don't feel like it's amazing. I think they could do better for sure. As of the way it is right now, it's basically just a scuffed Last Epoch crafting system, and I mean, it doesn't have to be a complex system, but I feel like just having a watered down Last Epoch crafting system is not really the play. Yeah, I don't know, especially when you consider that Last Epoch is like essentially an indie game and D4 is made by a gaming colossus. They can do better. Resistances matter now. I think they mattered for a few seasons, but this is the first season I've played since the game launched, so resistances matter now. Incredible. Glyph XP leveling feels much better. You don't have to, it doesn't take very long. If you're doing max tier Nightmare Dungeons, which are pretty easy, you can definitely do them on day one with like no problem. It only takes a couple of runs to get a glyph to 21. So it's not that much time, and the less time spent in the Nightmare Dungeon is the better. Uber Sparks, which are the currency. If you get 4 of them, you can make an Uber unique of your choice. I think this is a pretty cool idea. So Uber uniques in this game are not tradable, so if you're gonna get one, you need to farm it yourself. So this is kind of like a way, if you keep farming Uber items and you get 4, you can craft the one you want by salvaging them. That's pretty cool. I do like that. Elixirs such incense are less annoying now. I feel like I always had the good ones to use just from dropping. I never felt like I had to craft them really. Outside of the seasonal ones, those I was crafting, but that's like, you never run out. I still don't like elixirs slash incense. I think they should just be permanent buffs. I think having them as a button you just need to remember to click every 30 minutes is dumb. But it's less annoying now, so it is a positive. Vuln and crit aren't as stupid now. I think this has been a couple seasons too. But it's not as stupid. You don't just stack only vuln damage or whatever. I mean, I mean, on the build I was playing on Rogue, you kind of do, but not really like the same as before. So it's less stupid now. I'm still... The damage scaling system, when I looked into it, was still kind of weird, but it's definitely better. Town layouts are improved. Most are still pretty bad, honestly, in my opinion, but Saragar in specific is really good. Horse sprint in town, so the boost is you can use that in town now. That might have been a few seasons ago too, I don't know. Build diversity overall is better than it was before, I want to say, but it still feels abysmal compared to like any other ARPG. I feel like the builds that get the one-shot bugs just overshadow other things so much. I don't know. Target farming items from certain bosses. I think this is good. I mean, target farming, is a good mechanic. You do certain bosses for certain items, you get them, boom. Gold/trading seems to be better. You trade for greater affixes because it is very rare to get one you want. Personally, I do not trade in this game. The only thing I would consider trading for is bossing fragments because killing the normal guys over and over is really annoying. I mean, I keep going to negatives, but it's hard not to. But still in the positives. Performance of the game is very good. I don't think my FPS dropped below 120 a single time. It is a very well performing game from the pure aspect of your FPS. Probably the best game I've seen in many years in terms of performance for how good the game looks and how good it runs. I think it is unmatched in that. I don't think any game I've played comes even close recently. Non-MTX armor in the game looks real good, so you don't need to spend any money if you don't want to look like a hobo on a train or something. So far it's honestly a pretty good foundation if they can manage to fix the stupid shit in the game. And there is quite a bit of stupid shit, but honestly, most of it is pretty easy fixes. But I don't think they'll do it just because of their general incompetency. Or it will take 20 seasons. Like, some of these things are so basic, but drag the game so far down, it is really incredible how they just don't do it. Now, that being said, on to the negatives. There is no loot filter. There's still no loot filter. Some people say this isn't a problem. It is a problem because they do things like boss drops. They decided to make the brilliant color of blue, which, if you know the color blue in ARPGs, is the same drop color as magic items, so you could have one. Now, I don't think blues drop in World Tier 4, but it's just kind of the point, right? Blue is for magic items. And then you can't hide anything that you don't want to see, like the rares. Rares are useless. They just clutter up the screen. There's zero reason to loot them. The game is very, very buggy. I don't remember it being this buggy on launch. I was really impressed with how buggy it was. It felt like I don't know where all these issues came from. Like, I do not remember these at all. I'll just list off the bugs I encountered just in the first couple days. All my keys stopped working except for the chat box. So I could type in chat, but if I close chat and then I tried to do anything, mouse clicks, potion, my abilities, nothing would work until I restarted the game. I had 20 plus crashes over the first couple of days. It was really incredible. Hitboxes on some bosses are just really bad. Like Duriel, Uber Duriel is the worst hitboxes I've really ever seen in a game. She would shoot projectiles and I would be in between, clearly dead center in between the two, and I would still get hit. Her poison pools would be invisible. She'd spit a poison pool and it would be clearly right in front of me. Like, I'm not stepping on it, there's a good gap, and it still kills me. I got tons of random error messages popping up. Random buttons would stop working. Like, for example, if you die and use up all your death count in a Pit, you can't, I don't know if it's Pit or Nightmare Dungeon, but if you use all the revives, the leave now button does not work. You have to wait for someone to revive you, or you have to quit the game. The leave dungeon button does not work. I was randomly, for the first couple days, I don't know, the first 3 or 4 days, I was getting randomly locked out of the game for 5 minutes, and then it would give me this error that said, like, it's trying to save my character, and I couldn't log back in. That was kind of annoying. Now, unrelated to that, but I think unrelated, I had like a 15-minute rollback at some point. I don't know what caused it. Nobody in my party got it. I don't think it was server related. I crafted some items. I got an error. It kicked me out. And then when I logged back in, I had to recraft my items. Nothing huge. It was just really annoying having to recraft my items. I had multiple dungeons that I was trying to complete, just not spawning their objectives. I ran around the entire thing multiple times, and the thing I was looking for was just straight up not there, and there was no possible way I missed it. The camera locks onto other players' characters sometimes. I don't know what's going on with that. Sometimes my camera would just start flying into a party member. I leap slammed through the ground and got stuck under the world in a nightmare dungeon. That one was kind of funny. Sometimes party invites don't work and give an error code. Party members' death markers are never in the right spot. It shows one spot and then it teleports to another. I don't know what's up with that. Party member, damage reduction monsters sometimes do not glow purple and it's very hard to find them. I had this in some dungeons today. The pack wasn't dying. There was no purple indicator guy. So I had to look through and find a little tiny square under their name to figure out which one it is. The world boss alert does not time up when the boss actually spawns. I got the alert 20 minutes after I did the boss one time, and this is a pretty big issue because world boss is very important for certain material drops right now. Hell Tide does not show properly on the map. It was constantly showing me fake Hell Tides. I'd run into the Hell Tide and then it would disappear on my map and go to another zone. There's a tempering gear problem. I don't know if this is a bug or intended, but I'm assuming it's a bug because it's so stupid. You can temper gear on other classes that get higher rolls for certain affixes. For example, if you need crit damage on a barb, you get your barb gear, and then you put it in your stash, and then you take it as your rogue. And then you temper it on the rogue, and the rogue's crit damage roll is actually higher. So you need to level a rogue now and level up the tempering manuals to get this higher crit damage roll if you want to be playing the barb as efficiently as possible. I think it's an extra 30% or something. Invisible walls, especially during Hell Tides, the worm guys will come up and they don't despawn properly. And then there's just giant invisible walls that block you. That's it for the bugs I encountered. On-death effects in the game are still absurd. Basically, every single monster has an on-death effect. It's crazy. The entire hallway will just be filled with on-death effects. I'm really surprised this isn't something I hear complaints about more. In PoE, people will complain about just a couple on-death effects per map or whatever. Max. But in this game, it's it's literally 80% of monsters. You can't do a map without seeing 45 death effects, and it's really annoying. So it makes you wait to get your loot and stuff. I don't like it in either game, but it's way worse in this game. Yeah. There's still no map overlay somehow. There's no argument for why there wouldn't be a map overlay. The overlay they give was for immersion, but that makes no sense because you have a bunch of golden numbers flying all over your screen, which is not immersive at all. And I don't know how it's less immersive to have a gigantic map that takes up your entire screen and blocks everything rather than just a little one extra character. There's genuinely no excuse for that. That and the loot filter, it just makes genuinely zero sense. Build variety, still abysmal. It's better than before, so this was a negative and positive. It just feels like the one-shot bugs are way too prevalent. I feel like in this game there's always a build. I've seen it something every season on day 3 max of the league. Somebody has a one-shot bug, and then you just one-shot uber bosses. This league, it's the Thorns thing. You just leap in the same spot 5,000 times, and then the boss comes up and it slaps you and then dies. Running normal bosses for boss fragments feels stupid because they're so easy. You just one-shot them on after a couple hours of gameplay, you will one-shot every normal boss. And 90% of the time, getting their boss fragments is just spent resetting and then running to the boss. And it's not fun. There's no HP orb numbers. You can't get an HP bar above your character. Like, I mean, these are really simple things. Like, I don't know how, like, these things, I don't know how they're in the game. Or how they're not in the game. It's crazy. Running alts to get Helltide Reputation to get Uber Uniques. So, the Helltide Reputation will give you sparks for Ubers. So, if you want to, you can just make 4 new characters and spend a day doing that. It gives you a bunch of stuff, actually. It gives you a bunch of boss fragments. So this is actually very, very efficient to do. You make the new character, you get a bunch of boss fragments. Stygian Stones, which is the Uber boss fragment, the main Uber boss fragment. It's very rare. I think the first 5 days of playing on my Barb, I maybe dropped 5 to 7 of them. And yes, I was doing the right pit level for it. I was at like, I stopped at like pit 80, but I was farming that for a long time. And I basically never noticed a drop. Then you make an alternate character and you do all the Helltide Reputation, you get like, I don't know, like 20 or something. You get way more efficiently. And on top of that, you get an Uber Spark as well, which lets you craft an Uber. So Uber uniques are no longer chase items. Now they're an item you can farm by just making new characters over and over again. And then you just click the one you want. You only get 50% of crafting materials if you are not the one who opened the pit instance. Now I kind of understand not having group play be the best at everything, but I don't even think group play in pit would be that good, because you just instead of making it only the host uses their shards, you just make it so everybody has to put their shards in and then they all get the same loot. I don't know, this doesn't really make sense to me. I don't feel like this is the way to nerf group play. There is a random unmarked side quest which will give you 15% max life, 20% poison res, and 8% bonus XP from giving you an elixir that can be used alongside your normal elixir, so you'll have 2 elixirs, which is basically a permanent buff. It's not a permanent buff because elixirs are, you just remember to click it every 30 minutes and then you're good. Like, I've never run out of materials, it's just a matter of if I remember to click it or not. So that's just, it's kind of dumb. There's no indication of this quest anywhere in the game that I saw that says anything about this. The quest is called A Pinch of Poison, I think, for people who don't know about it and should do it. It's in the town called Gay Cool. World scaling near other players on your party seems like shit. You can be blasting like a Helltide boss. You're level 100, you're a juicer, right? And then 5 level 60s will run over, and now instead of doing it in 30 seconds, now it's going to take you 10 minutes because it scales the HP so much and they're not doing any damage. I feel like that's kind of stupid. Nightmare dungeons are still 85% garbage. Modifiers and objectives just feel like garbage in most scenarios. There's a few that are pretty good, but they are far and few. There's far more F tier Nightmare dungeons than there are S tier. Nerfing philosophy is stupid. They seem to nerf builds that aren't even super OP. And then they leave builds in the game that are literally bugged and will just one-shot Ubers and just leave them be for, I don't know, the entire time I play. It makes no sense. Scattering prisms, which is the socket currency to add sockets to your gear, is really scarce. That was my main bottleneck for the first couple days. I did not have enough to make sockets on my gear. You get them from, they randomly drop from some monsters, I think in Pit. I don't know if it's just Pit, but I've seen it randomly drop in there. Very scarcely. I've gotten maybe 3 total. Then it drops from world bosses, which is the most reliable source. And then the other one is Legion events, which is a waste of time. And when I did them, I didn't even get a scattering prism, and I did like 5. I don't know if that's enough. Maybe I was just really unlucky. There's no real chase items anymore. I kind of talked about this already, the Uber Uniques. The only like thing I'd consider a chase item is getting like greater affix gear, and just getting greater affix on a rare isn't very interesting to me, to be honest, as a chase item. I guess you could say like getting greater affixes on a Uber Unique, but at that point, do you really need that? You can do everything in the game anyways. Monster mods are mostly just annoying. They're either CC bots or wallers for the most part. I don't even notice the damage ones, it's just CC bots. The crowd control. The crowd control overall is just way too much. I think it's definitely better than it used to be. It's still way too much for me. You'll be stunned for like 5+ seconds if you're not unstoppable. Some monster types are infinitely more annoying than others, like the serpents. They'll spawn like these green beams that will stun you and spawn a bunch of them. It's kind of annoying. The champion monsters, which is the ones that give damage reduction, the glowing purple guys, if it doesn't bug, if it bugs and they don't glow purple, then good luck finding it, but they have way too high of a range. They can be like off screen basically, and it'll still be touching the pack you're fighting. It's kind of weird. Waypoints aren't shared between characters. Neither are strongholds. Now that doesn't really make sense in a game like this. It's an open world game. Almost every zone scales to your level, so you can go everywhere. Most waypoints are within like 30 seconds of traveling to another waypoint, so why don't you just get them? At this point, it's just like a tedium. Like you just run to the waypoints and then when you need to go there, you don't have it. So you have to go a little bit further and then you go run to it. I just think it's stupid. Same thing with strongholds. Strongholds are just for the waypoints at this point, if you already have the renown. So it's just another way of gating time behind a waypoint. The battle pass ashes are stupid and shouldn't exist. If there is more than 15 items in a loot explosion, you have to loot the trash to be able to see the extras. Now what I mean by that is I counted, I think it was 15, if not it was like give or take 1 item. It would only show 15. There's way more than 15 there, and you have to pick up the trash to see more than 15 because it just hides them. Now, on the same note, I didn't experience this, but somebody told me this in chat, so it could be a lie for all I know. You can confirm in the comments if this is true, but console can't scroll through items on the ground. They have to pick up every piece of trash around to eventually get the good item they want. Like, for example, say 10 items drop. The middle one is a boss fragment they need. They're gonna have to pick up all the garbage rares around it to get to the boss fragment. Which, if this is true, which I have no doubt it is, it's truly impeccable, impeccable, incredible, amazing, considering how things as bad as this can still get in the game when it is almost certainly this game was developed mostly with console in mind. The looting feels janky. There are many times I click items and character just stands still and doesn't grab it. This is much more of a problem on the horse than on foot. It does still happen on foot, but on horse it is just horrendous. Honestly, doing a lot of things on the horse is just horrendous. Clicking things on the horse is horrendous. You have to get off your horse to interact with NPCs. Why can't I just talk to them on the horse? My renown was reset this season. Luckily, this is something that does not happen. I should put that in the positives. That doesn't happen anymore. You only have to do it once, but I had to do it again because yeah. So when I was trying to click Lilith altars, which was a great thing, having to do it on the horse was so bad. It was so bad, dude. Elixirs are still stupid. I kind of already talked about that. They should just be all permanent buff. You still run out of things to do very fast if you're trying to blast hard and you're not terrible at the game. You could definitely finish all content very easily within like a day or two. Now, I don't think that's really a super bad thing. Not every game needs to have super hard content and whatever. But I feel like a year out, that shouldn't... A year out from release, I don't know. I feel like there should be a little bit of... Some things that take more of a grind to get to. It's definitely better now, but you still run out pretty fast. Yellow/blue/white items should not exist. They are almost immediately useless because blue items, basically never good. White items, definitely never good. Yellow items, good for maybe like 10 levels. They only have 2, they made rares only have 2 affixes and legendaries, which is orange, and legendaries have 3, so you never use rares. Stats/affixes on items really feel uninspired. There's nothing interesting. The most interesting item affix is levels to a skill. Vendors have no sell all button. Now don't say you can mark it all as junk and then sell it, because that makes no sense. Because that's more button presses than individually selling it. I've had plenty of people say that, and I don't know like what they're talking about, because that's not a sell all button. That's a click more buttons to sell everything button. You cannot find uniques for other classes, so basically if you ever want to reroll to another build, you're gonna have to get those uniques on that character, which isn't a huge thing, but I feel like it'd be nice to be able to rarely find some other class uniques. Maybe to inspire another build to make, right? Melee is pretty bad with how much ground effect damage there is. Melee is just bad in every game, but I feel like it's even worse in this game because you end up having to play like DDR with all the on-ground damage effects there is. The progression from 1 useful greater affix to 2 useful greater affix feels like it takes way too long. I found very, very few 2 greater affix items that were actually good. Very, very few. Now, I'm not saying, like, this could be okay, but it's weird. Oh, the world boss is up. Sorry about that. It's kind of like a wall you hit. So up until you get 1 greater affix, getting to 1 greater affix is super easy. You will fly there. Like, there is no wall you hit. You just have very, very smooth progression, very, very huge power upgrades that you get. Then you hit 1 useful greater affix, and then it's like near impossible to get to 2. The entire time I've played, my gear is still pretty much all 1 greater affix. There's a few pieces I got with 2 greater affixes, but not really much. Then, on top of that, you have to hope that they do not brick from tempering. The tempering system is more of less of a crafting system and more of like a refining system. It feels kind of like a Korean MMO where you just are hoping it doesn't brick. You're not pogging out about what you get on the temper. You're hoping it doesn't hit the wrong thing 5 times in a row somehow. Now, there has been talk, Rob has a video on this, there has been talk that there is a pity system for it. So the hypothesis is if you get a bunch of other items, like say you're trying to upgrade your pants, and you get like 5 pants in your inventory, and then you temper them and you purposefully try and get it to hit the wrong thing. So you'll see if you'll try and get it to hit the wrong thing like 10 times or something, right? If it hits the right thing, you'll start over and keep crafting bad ones till you hit it like with the wrong one 10 times in a row. And then you go to your main pants, which you actually want the good thing on, and you do them, and apparently this makes it a higher chance to get the one you want. I don't know if this is true. This could be completely tinfoil, but Rob was talking about it. I feel like it might be worth putting here. So take that one with a massive grain of salt, but if it is true, it is really stupid. The consumable tab is better than it used to be, but it still fills up way too quickly. It fills up like almost immediately. Half of its potions, the other half is boss fragments, and then the rest is like nightmare dungeon sigils. It's definitely better. It's not a huge deal now, but it's still slightly annoying. Poison damage feels way more like you take way more damage from it than any other type of damage in the game. I just get blasted by poison res. Or poison damage. I have the same res of poison that I do everything else. That's maxed. It just annihilates you. Group content is boring when the game should lean into it more, because I mean it's like an open world, kind of an MMO light edition. There's a lot of little MMO features, kind of, but the group content is just pretty boring. Like group content for doing dungeons and stuff, right? There's no like roles. Now it doesn't need roles, but group content just kind of just like meh. You all just throw your faces at it till whatever. Yeah, like there's no support characters. I mean, you kind of can, but like I don't know, like Barb shouts, but there's no like dedicated support. There's no like roles. Like I think in D3 you had roles, like you had the guy who would pull the monsters, you'd have the support or whatever. I don't really feel like that exists in this game. Now, this could be a good thing, actually, for some people, but I feel like it's more interesting when people have different roles, like a dedicated sport and whatever. World bosses are stupid and die in 1 second. It's basically just, hey, go do this every 4 hours because why not? You get loot and it just dies. Bricking a best in slot item from tempering seems like it should have some form of protection. Not a pity system, but say you get like a 1 in a billion item, triple greater affix, whatever, and then you just fill a basic 20% roll 5 times in a row. I just feel like that's stupid and it only belongs in like games like MapleStory, basically. It doesn't really feel good in an ARPG. I mean, it doesn't feel good in MapleStory either, but it doesn't fit into the game. It feels pretty weird that you can just craft the wrong thing 5 times and then you're done. I feel like it would even be better to be like, you craft once and then you're done, but when you have 5 chances and you just get absolutely like screwed, I don't know, it's a little weird. The game still doesn't have leaderboards somehow, except for the worst content in the game, the Gauntlet. A truly incredible decision making. I don't know how this is the case. Clicking a lot of stuff is annoying and forces you to get off your mount. Like, for example, the Tree of Whispers, where you turn in your bounties or whatever for gold and stuff. You can't do it on your horse, or maybe you can, but it's like really annoying. And Altars of Lilith. For how important the world boss is, there should be a more noticeable way to see that spawning. Something Lost Ark actually does good is like, you can set timers, and when the thing you want to do is happening, it like pops up. I think that'd be really good. I mean, I think the first step is to just have a working alert first, because the one in game is just bugged and will just show up at basically random times. Oh, never mind. You cannot turn off vuln text. So if you want to turn off your vuln text, you have to turn off all damage text. There's no Twitch integration to view gear. The trade window is for some reason only 1/3 of your inventory. For some reason you have to be near somebody to trade instead of just anywhere. Like, they're in your party and you right click and you click trade, they have to be near you. There's no search bar in the skill twigs, aka the skill trees, but you know, it's small, so it's a twig, right? There's only some weird like thing where you click buzzwords or something, like, I don't know, like you click a box that says resistance and it highlights them, and then you can't really zoom out that far, so I don't know, it's kind of weird. Definitely a console thing, I don't know. UI is bad. I don't know why everything in the game except for like your inventory and your skill tree has its own like full screen window. Why can't everything just be like adjustable boxes or whatever? Doesn't even have to be adjustable. Why can't it just be something that doesn't cover the entire screen? Like, I feel like you click everything, it goes to an entirely new screen, and it's not great. The buff bar stops at 8, so if you have more than 8 buffs, you can only see 8, and you don't know what's on. There was many times where I had more than 8 buffs and I thought a potion expired, but it just wasn't on my buff bar, so I wasted a potion. The free battle pass cosmetics are trash, which it's not a big deal, but with the game having a $70 price tag, it's kind of ridiculous that they're not at least decent. You just get like a goddamn red t-shirt or something. And finally, to wrap it up, Diablo is still not in the game titled Diablo. Yeah, so those last ones kind of are nitpicking, but there's a lot of stuff still that needs to be worked on. Overall, the game is so much better than it was before. So my total score is, for blasting, I give the game a 6.9. If you just want to blast the game, like literally zero thinking, do not think. If you think, the game gets worse. I tried thinking and it ruined my enjoyment, genuinely. The more you look into things, the more you realize it's stupid, and you just should not do that. So for blasting, it's a solid 6.9. Now, if you want a game that has good like systems, well designed and everything, this is still not the game for that. It's definitely better, but it's still not well designed at all in pretty much any way. It is really amazing that the game is fun now. because it is just so poorly designed. Nothing really makes sense. It's still developed by an entire team of people who have never played an ARPG, and it is clear. So in that regard, I give it a 2.9 if you're looking for meaningful and well-designed systems. Now, if you're looking for a game that is an alternative to PoE in any regard, this is a 0 out of 10. That is about it for this. You know, I was gonna edit this video, but this ended up being way longer than I thought it was gonna be. So, yeah. Enjoy the... Yep.